Welcome back, everybody. We got Robert Gilstrap here. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, man. So whether you like it or not, you have become the short-term guru in NARPM, in the NARPM circles. You are now the short-term guy. So let's just before we get into short term, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your journey? I know you had sold your business and then you flipped something else, you flipped a new business off. So tell us just kind of like quickly about your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with NARPM now for like, gosh, I want to say 15, 16, maybe 17 years. I'm not sure, but been a long time. And I started originally Title One management, and I was in that long-term management. And I sold that to Pure about a little bit over 2 years ago.
And
Two and a half.
how long did you run Title One?
I think I started that in 2003, maybe, I think.
Okay.
So, but that was just the name Title One. I actually had done it for many years prior to that under a couple of different names, and then I had some partners and stuff too. So it
Now it was
was,
interesting when you sold to Pure, you sold kind of a portion of your business to Pure, right? Didn't you keep a couple or didn't you keep a division? So talk a little bit about that real quick.
yeah. Well, Title One was always kind of that. I've always been that guy who wanted to have multiple streams of income. So, and everything kind of feeds into the center. So Title One was the long-term management company, but also had a maintenance company and an inspections company and a short-term rental company and an insurance company and a couple other things. And they kind of all fed off of that same customer base. But whenever I sold to Pure, I sold the long-term management contracts. So
And then did you keep everything else or did you just keep the short? I know you kept the short term because we're going to talk about that today. Did
yeah, I
you
kept everything else. Yeah.
kept everything else? Okay, done. Very nice. And so now you are running those four or five other businesses. You're no longer with Pure as of this recording here in August.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
And, but I've kind of shut down everything except for, I mean, I still have to do maintenance, so I still have, a maintenance company, but in general, I'm just trying to focus only on short and midterm rentals and trying to pare everything down. So,
So what? So yeah, I could talk to you for hours about all your other stuff, all your other ventures, but let's dive deep into the short term. So what is short term versus midterm? I haven't heard the term midterm before.
yeah, well, I mean, short term is what everybody looks at as like Airbnb, right? Somebody staying a weekend or a week. And a lot of times, if they're like what I was, we were all thinking, well, gosh, that's people staying at the beach or in the mountains and on vacation. And I was like, well, that sucks because, I live in Cartersville, Georgia, an hour outside of Atlanta. Who the hell comes to Atlanta for vacation, right? So
Right.
I was like, there's no way I can go into that business. But then I discovered that people do come into that business for all manner of things. And then that kind of morphs into midterm rentals, which I would say that's the people who are staying, 6 weeks, 6 months. Um,
Almost like some like snowbirds back. I know Florida probably had that for a while, right? Like people would move from New York to Florida for 6 months for the winter and then come back. That's kind of a midterm
yeah, that
thing.
would be a midterm as well. And I think the majority of midterm stuff that I see is job related travel. I mean, we kind of focus our business on real estate sales, job relocations, insurance claims, those type things, and it's worked out really well. And then I kind of sprinkle in shorter term things if we don't, if our calendar's not completely full, then I'll sprinkle in the guy who wants to stay for a weekend. But in general, I'm not really looking for the people staying for a few days or a week.
All right. So if I'm listening to this, I'm a PM company. I own a PM firm or I'm running a PM firm. Give me the benefits and the negatives, I guess, or the detractors of starting a short-term division. Because you did it successfully. I've known other people who have not done it successfully.
Yeah.
So tell us why I would take that pain to build another division in my company.
Yeah, and it's not as though I jumped in it. I think we all gravitate towards things many times out of money or whatever, but I was just kind of burnt out, right? I was burnt out I've done long-term management for 30 years. And I guess I'm dating myself there, but and it's not as though I knew everything that there was to know about long term, because I don't, but I know a fair amount. There's not a whole lot that's new to me in the long term space, and I wanted to change. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I sold the long term stuff to Pure, and I wanted to change. And short term was a change, but it wasn't too big of a change. It's still management at its core, right?
Mhm.
And I figured, hey, it's still instead of one tenant every 5 years on average, which is about what we did at Title One. This is one tenant every, I don't know, 5 months, 4 months,
And
three
that
months.
that sounds like so much stress to me because the turn is like the worst part, right? So I mean, you weren't really looking for the short term, but it kind of fell into your lap. Is that suffice to
Yeah, a buddy of mine had introduced me to it and said, "Hey, you should look into this. There's good money in it." And I was like, "Dude, you're an idiot." I mean, think about it. I mean, I was making good money in the long term business, but I was like, why in God's name would I want to? I mean, and even that, I've already been doing it for so long. I can't stand people now because of having to deal with tenants and owners for so many years. But and I was like, and I'm keeping these people for a long time. Why in God's name would I want to have 50 tenants a year? And because in my brain, I just couldn't see, it seemed to me like it was identical to long-term management, just with a lot more work. And true, it is quite a bit more work, but you also get compensated for that, right? And
let's talk about the numbers. On average, if you have a property that you're managing, and I want to talk a little bit about what you did with your master leases here in a second, but
sure,
let's say you have a client that you're managing a property for and they have a short-term rental and they have a long-term rental.
yeah.
As a manager company, what's the difference in how much money you would make on the short-term versus the long-term?
Well, the numbers, everything's different across the United States, and it varies upon whether it's a vacation rental market or, the beach and the mountains are different than the suburbs.
Hmm.
But, it's not uncommon. I would say nationwide, we see anywhere from 8 to like 12% in long-term management. I see that swath over the time I've been in the management fee. And maybe it goes a little bit lower than that. But in short-term and mid-term rentals, I mean, it's 20, 25, 30, 35% management fee. And it kind of,
Big difference, yeah.
yeah, especially vacation rental markets is more the 30, 35%. And then,
Would you say like for every 100, let's say you have 100, vacation rentals. I know it's a lot, but let's just say you had 100. Would that be equal to then 300 long-term rentals as far as like revenue
well,
around? I mean,
that'd be equal to probably 400 or 500.
wow.
Yeah. So it would be, and it would take more staff than a 500 unit operation. Um, so I had pared my business down to like 300 and something by the time I sold to Pure, and or I sold them 300 and something. I can't remember how many now, but I have way more staff right now at 60 units than I did back then, because it just takes more. I mean, it takes a lot more staff,
But you
and
can afford
but
that staff
also
because you're
make
making more money.
yeah, but also make more revenue too with 60
Yeah.
units than I did with
So
you know
does it end up being about the same profit margin because you have higher costs on the back end? And
eh, I
or you,
mean,
I guess you're changing one problem for the other instead of having
you
so
are,
many
yeah,
labors.
you are. Yeah, I'm not making it out. I certainly, maybe back in just right at COVID and right at post COVID, right? Back then it was like a license to print money. And because think about it, the government was, printing money every 5 seconds and handing it to everybody, and everybody was spending it. Short-term rentals were kind of coming into their day, and it being
Yeah,
popular.
especially with COVID, you could go live
Yeah,
anywhere. Like all of a sudden, Cartersville, Georgia sounded much better than downtown Atlanta.
exactly, right. And I think a lot of people kind of got into the space. I promoted the heck out of it myself.
When you say got into it, meaning purchased and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
People, got into the management space. They got into, doing. I don't want to say Airbnb because it's almost like saying Kleenex, right? But
short term.
sometimes I say Airbnb instead
Yeah.
of short-term rentals. But everybody was doing it, and it was just very super popular. So it made good sense. And maybe that was probably the wrong time to get in, but that's when I got in. So
Well, it was a tailwind, so you got in at the right time, but you're still in it. Are you seeing a lot of management companies fold that were managing short
oh yeah.
term?
Oh
You
yeah. Yeah. We've seen a
so
ton of people get out. I mean, in 2024 is probably like what 2019 or 18 was. And it's kind of back to the pre-COVID days, right? And the problem, of course, is that you had everybody and their brother getting into the business there
like
during
over,
the
there was an oversupply.
right. And there's still that, right? There's still a ton load of people who are in, but a lot of those people have just exited, kind of vanished
So
out of the
so
space.
knowing what you know now, is this a headwind? Like, are we seeing kind of a dip? Like, would you, if you ran a short term, like if I'm listening to this
Yeah.
and would you say, man, I would still go into short term at this time in 2024?
I think if you've got the strategy that I have, which is not just short term, but midterm and not I mean, there's always money in a vacation market, right? So if you're in an area where there are travelers for vacation,
Makes
the
sense.
beach, the mountains, snow,
You should
water,
be in it already. Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to have a problem there. I mean, there'll always be competition, but where I see the opportunity in today's world is that job related travel and those midterm stays. There's just so much more travel than people ever, including me, ever imagined.
I got to tell you, I
And
keep hearing we're in a recession. Every time I go to the damn airport, it is like packed to the gills every
yeah,
single. So yeah. So all right. So tell the audience your master lease thing, because this is like to me is this like secret sauce? Am I giving up here, or can we talk a
yeah,
little bit about it?
we do it. I mean, it kind of started because at the very beginning, it started because I was too chicken in
Do it
dealing with
yourself to buy a property.
yeah, with my long-term owner when I was still, when I still had Title One and I was kind of dipping my foot in the short-term rental
Yeah. So
business.
tell everybody what you did, man.
Yeah,
This to
I
me
was
is
just like,
flip
I
my
didn't want
client.
to take one of my owner's properties and try and convince because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I just went and said, I'll tell you what, to kind of safeguard this owner, we had just finished evicting a tenant and out of a condo in Buckhead, which is a pretty nice area of Atlanta. And and I just told the owner like, hey, I'll rent the property myself, and that way, if it screws up or something goes wrong, I'll be the one at fault. And so I rented that property for I think $1,200 a month, and which was a little bit less than that was about what he was going to net anyway if I had been, charging my long-term management fee. And he just saw me still as his property manager, although technically I was his tenant.
Right.
And then I promptly put that on Airbnb and a bunch of other platforms, and I made about $4,500 a month. And I just,
But you got to put money into it, right? You had to change the locks. Like, did you do the
I had
actual
to furnish it,
improvements?
but it was
Yeah.
a studio. It was a one-bedroom studio. It cost me like $5,000 to furnish it. So, and I did it nice. It could have cost much less than that. But I mean, knowing what I know now, it would cost a fraction of that by the
Right.
square foot. I didn't know what I was doing then. So, but yeah, it made incredible money and stayed booked all the time. And
So
I,
you're paying 1,200 in rent, and I know there's people out there like that was their whole business model, right? They would actually long term rent properties, and then
yeah,
they
it's called rental
would
arbitrage, and there's a
arbitrage.
whole section of people who did it. Now there's a lot of companies that went bankrupt doing that too, because it
100%,
just kind of
because
happened at
you're
the
on the
wrong
hook for
time.
the rent, right? If you don't get at
That's
least
exactly
through
right.
short term, you got to pay the 1,200 bucks.
That's exactly right. And uh,
How would that work, honestly? Let's say you had to evict yourself. How does that work? You had a
well, what
management
I
company.
did was that's what I pitched, and I still tell people this: if they're a long-term manager and they want to do that, you just pitch it as free management, right, to your client. And essentially, you're not going to charge them a management fee, but you're going to make sure that the net rent that you're paying this particular owner is about what he would get anyway after your management fee. So you're getting less than market rent, which is good because that gives you a little bit, as the tenant. And he's getting the same money he would have gotten anyway by hiring a manager.
Okay, so you
You're
cut the
the
middleman out.
professional.
You cut yourself out. You cut the you cut your
Well, I'm still getting the benefit though, right? I mean, either way,
correct.
I'm still
Right.
getting the benefit. I'm getting below market rent. By the
Now,
way, Mark,
does the PMA change on this type of
well, absolutely.
transaction?
Yeah, because now I was going to say the benefit to doing that way is the owner can't fire you because you're a principal. Think about it. You're a tenant. You've got rights. And not that, you'd have to decide how you're going to do that, but
Oh
it works out
man.
really well.
The defendant is Robert Gilstrap. The plaintiff is Robert Gilstrap Enterprises.
Well, we never did that, but trust me, none of the owners ever wanted to do that. And whenever I did it with that first guy, it worked out so well. I went out and did it another half dozen times immediately, and it worked out fantastic every time. And I'm still doing them today,
And
and
how
they
long has it
worked
been
out
now?
great. Well, I started right at the tail end of 2019, so not very long.
Yeah.
So I still feel like kind of a
So
newbie
four
in
or
the
five
business.
years. So you've shown this is great proof.
Yeah, no, it works. I mean, clearly, anybody who knows me knows that I won't do stuff unless I make money at it. So I'm not in this for, altruism. I'm in this to make money.
Right.
And
So you ran the numbers and you knew that you're gonna put money up front on all these houses. How many houses are you doing this with now? Like this type of deal where you have this, I'll call it a master lease, but not
yeah, and it technically is like a master lease, right? Like it's, and by the way, I wish I could say I invented it. I thought I was super smart. I didn't know, kind of what I was doing,
and
but
then you
there's been
realize the whole
people
industry.
in NARPM who have been doing this for decades. Jan Leisure out in California, or she spends half her time in Hawaii, I believe. But Jan's been doing this, for decades, and I didn't realize it. I never knew. But
Yeah, because they're actually early adopters because they're in California, you're in
yeah,
Hawaii, they're not in Cartersville or Houston.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So,
that's
but
when people come to visit Houston.
I don't know how many I have right now. There's probably 5 or 6 that I'm down to on just arbitrage, where I'm doing that because it's just we're in a different economic environment now. And as rents were going crazy, it was much harder for me to negotiate, really good market rents. But I've had very good luck with owners, and as
Are
long as
you
you negotiate a good lease with an out clause, it can work. It can work for you.
are you seeing are you seeing the short-term rate come down, or basically did it kind of like evened out since the 2020?
When you say rate, you're talking about management fee, or are you talking about?
No, sorry, the rental rate. Like, so when you rent it out now, right? In 2020, I'm sure we got top
Yeah, you're
dollar.
talking about your nightly rate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is the nightly rate coming down, or is it steady? Does
Let's
it
say it's
fluctuate?
gotten more competitive. It's gotten more competitive. Oddly enough, our revenue is actually up over even the slowest times during COVID. But our revenue is actually up. So as all these other guys are going out of business because it's saturated, blah blah blah. Our revenue's up, but our nightly rate might be slightly down, and it's just because due to competition, right? But we saw that coming early on, and we just knew. And remember, a lot of the units that I manage, I own like 50 some odd units myself, 53 or 58, and so a lot of these short-term rentals are mine too, that I own. And I saw it coming in. I mean, I'm not going to put out a garbage product, so we produce a really nice, high quality unit. It's not like the long-term rental business where you can have crappy carpet with stains on it and laminate countertops that are chipped. I mean, you can't do that. You can't get away with that anymore. You could do that in 2021 and 22, but you can't do that in today's short-term rental market. The market
Why
will
is that?
just
They'll give you a negative review and then it just kind of just kills you from there.
yeah, you'll be out of business in
The
two
review
shifts.
is so powerful, right? I mean, it's like they got you kind of by the cojones, don't they? If
It's
yeah,
horrible actually because Airbnb is really powerful. They still account, in my estimation, for about 75% of the market, of the
but
market
yeah,
available.
but the VRBOs and all the other tech companies, they just filed the same thing, right? So it's all based on reviews. And when did a four-star review become a bad thing? You know what I mean? Like,
Dude, isn't that incredible? Like my reviews right now are like 4.6 or something like that's horrible. It only goes to 5. I mean, but that's way worse than I want it to be. I mean, I'm mad if we don't have 4.8 stars or better. And Airbnb, we're constantly getting Superhost and losing Superhost and getting Superhost and losing. And the reason is because you have to be at 4.8 stars. Well, the bigger you get,
The harder it is.
the harder it is to maintain, right? That 4.8. And there's some things you can do, but it's really tough. And you get a lot of, I
Do
don't
you
know.
see do you see people, I know we're getting a little off topic here, but do you see people that use that as a way to get something from you? Like, hey, if you don't give me this free or you don't give me the late stay out, I'm going to give you a negative review, like stuff like that.
That's what I was about to say. I don't know if you've noticed this, but and I don't want to blame it on COVID, but that's just when I've noticed it. It's like Americans have become pieces of crap, right? Like they go to the airport in their pajamas. They go out in public in like it's disgusting. People just didn't do what they didn't used to act the way that they act. And there was much more formality and decorum and whatever. And it's like people have no shame anymore.
They have,
They'll
I
say
think they
anything
walk
or
around. I
do
think a lot of people
anything.
walk around with a victim mentality. Like I'm a
I don't know
victim
what it
and I need to
is.
be catered to. I agree with you.
But to your point, yes, that's exactly what we see at the Airbnbs. We've had, dude, you wouldn't believe the stuff that we've had. I mean, we've had people bring in Ziploc bags full of dead bugs, dump them out, take a picture of them with their phone, call Airbnb. This is after they've stayed for a week now, and get Airbnb to give them all their money back. And yeah, so, or we have people who will, as soon as they get to a unit, they'll stay there for a week and then go pull out the refrigerator and pull it out from the wall and the stove and the oven. And so there's a dust bunny on the floor right there. We're calling Airbnb. We want our money back.
And
And
Airbnb will give them the money back every time.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes they will.
Is there,
And
can you fight that? Like, because you
yeah,
give me all the reasons not to get into short term. I
yeah, I'm
mean,
not trying to make it sound like it's horrible. No,
yeah. I mean, that
it's like,
happens like what, like 5% of the time, 3% of the
yeah,
time? It's
it's
small.
it's like I want to say it's the 80-20 rule. It's even smaller than that.
It's small.
It's the exact
It's
same
like
thing
the
that you've got
eviction
in
for
long
short term,
term.
for long term,
Yeah,
right?
in long term management, think about how many piece of crap tenants that you hate their guts. It's that same percentage in short term. There's just a lot more tenants in short term, right? Instead of one tenant every 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you have in your business, you've got one tenant every week. And it's so you think that it's more often. I mean, it is obviously statistically, but um, I
Yeah.
don't know. But
And
it's nothing
so,
you can't overcome. Once you learn the system and you kind of learn the game, just like you had to do in long-term management, then it's much easier. And you get systems in place. Like I would tell anybody, if you were thinking about going in this business, dude, I mean, long-term is like a walk in the park, in my opinion,
wow.
compared to this. But again, I'm coming at it from having 30 years of knowledge in long-term. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
still new to you. You're still figuring this thing out, right?
yeah, which is sad though. I mean, even after what four almost 5 years in, I feel like we're still just figuring it out. But oddly enough, it's funny. Even at 60 doors, dude, we are literally like one of the largest operators in. Well, I am the largest operator in my entire county. In fact,
Wow.
I am I'm the like the third or fourth largest operator in 4 or 5 counties around me, even at that tiny amount of doors.
So
And so it's
it's more
really,
fragmented and more mom and pop
it is
than
so
even long
fragmented, you
term.
wouldn't believe it.
So there's
And
a lot of opportunity there.
yeah, there really is. I mean, the number of companies that have, hundreds and hundreds of units, dude, that is like 0.001%. I mean, it's very, very tiny.
Right.
And so there is room to compete.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm on the fence of like, okay, I want to do short term, uh, do real high level, like what would be the first thing that you did or you would do or you would tell them to do? Like if you were coaching them, let's do a coaching session right now. Okay. So let's coach somebody on, okay, I want to go short term. I know it seems to be hard, but there's a lot of money there. What would be the first thing that you would say, hey, this is how you get into it?
Get some systems. I mean, you can kind of fake it till you make it in long term, right? And we all know that because most of us did that when we first started out. But and you're not going to go bankrupt if you lose 1 or 2 tenants in the long term space. But in the short term space, the money's moving much faster, right? Things are moving a lot faster, and other people are at play with power. Like Airbnb has power. and the platforms have power, and bad reviews actually mean something. No short term. Title One was never going to go out of business if somebody gave us a bad review. If you get a bunch of bad reviews in this business, you could go out of business literally in a couple of months. And I mean, they will literally just deplatform you. And so if I'm telling somebody they've got to have a system, and they've got to have software. This is not something that you can do on a yellow pad.
Do our management softwares, do they support short term, or do you actually have to get a second system? Like, can I do short term with Appfolio or Redvine or anything like that?
You could for a couple of units. I could show you how to do it for 2 or 3 units, but when you get much more than that, you really need specialized software. And the reason is there are, I don't know how many data points we track in long term, maybe 50 or 100, but it's 10 times that in short term. And yeah, you're just tracking so many more things. And don't forget, it's like every property is a fully furnished property. So now things that you've never considered as a long-term manager, like how many forks and
Plates.
plates are there, and
Yeah.
how many pillows are there, and the sheets and the laundry, and don't get me
Do you
started on
have so when you say systems, give me like the top two or three systems that come to your mind that you have to like, but like I'm guessing you have to have a turn, like you have to have a cleaning staff, so you have to have a clean system, like
Yeah, I was going to say you've got to have cleaners, and the two biggest things, in my opinion, that can wreck your business is the cleaning, the cleaning, and the cleaners. And because think about it, it's like running a whole separate maintenance company that just does cleaners. Or think about if your whole job was to hire painters for a living, right? Sometimes not the most reliable people, nothing on painters out there, but you know what I mean. If you've been in the business, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And cleaners are kind of the same way. And so you run into problems with that. And then you've got laundry. And those two things are the big, dude, I got so big, it got so bad with me at about 10, or I think we were probably 12 to 15 units, where I was doing the laundry out of my house. And then I was doing it, something else. Dude, I had to go buy a laundromat. That's how bad it got. And
You bought a laundromat?
I went and bought a laundromat because we had so much laundry that I mean, I ruined a whole set of washer dryer at my house, and I had like 10 feet of sheets and towels in my kitchen, and it was insane, man. It was insane. And then I went and got a
And then,
house.
so now your cleaning team has to like take the strip the laundry, and they have to drive to like your laundromat, like to
No,
do
no,
the
no.
laundry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to learn. You've got to learn quickly, right? The way that you manage it, kind of like long term, the way you manage it 3 or 4 doors is vastly different than how you manage it, 30 or 40 doors or 50.
Right.
And so no, we're showing up with bags of fresh, clean laundry. We're stripping everything, putting it in and then remaking everything, and then taking the old with us, and then it cycles back to the laundry. And the reason is there's just no, because a lot of people will think, oh, well, that's stupid. You're an idiot. You should just, there's a washer dryer right there in the unit. Why don't you just wash it there? There's no time, right? There's no time. You've only got about 4 hours between checkout and check in for the next guest. And even if you could do the laundry in the unit, the cleaners don't want to do it in the unit because they're ready to move on to the next unit, right?
Right.
So they can
Right. So
get
even
paid.
if they knock out in 2 hours, they go to
Yeah,
the next one because that's how they make money.
right. And so there's other ways to do it. I'm certainly not saying that ours is the
Yeah.
correct way or the best way, but I'm just telling you
But
we've
it's
learned
stuff
a lot.
like you said, it's stuff you don't even think about. Like we long term, you never think about laundry.
No, you never, and and then you don't know in long term what do we have to buy in long term? You're great. We're buying property. We're at Folio paying $1 or $2 a month for software per door. You know, try going and spending $250,000 on a laundromat, or where one machine is $24,000, and it's insane, dude.
Now,
There's just a lot.
when I think of short term, I just I think hotel. I think you have to like have like if again you said if you get a bad review with long term doesn't hurt you. So if I don't answer the phone
Right.
long term doesn't hurt me. Is that another system? Like people call you all hours of the night, right?
Yeah, well, and that's why I said you've really got to think. Like at first, my phone, was they were blowing my phone up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
But
can't get in, right? Yeah.
we're on. It's a 365-day a year, 24-hour a day business, and you've really got to get that through your head. The biggest probably shift is mindset, right? I mean, I'm not really embarrassed to say, but anybody who knows me, like, I can't stand tenants, you know, and they call and tell me to, hey, my air conditioning's out. And I was like, well, that sucks. We'll be over there whenever I get to it. And because what are they going to do, right? And I get it. That makes me a bad long-term manager, maybe sometimes. But in the short-term business, it's like, yeah, you know, we'll be over there in 30 minutes. Not whenever we feel like it. We'll be there today in just a few minutes. And that's the way it has to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
So
So
did you hire a third party company to answer your phones, or do you have like round
yeah,
the clock VAs, or what does that look like?
yeah, round the clock VAs for the phones. And I will say that it's a business that is perfectly suited for remote team members, which I think you would like. And
PMSolutions.com, shout out, trademark.
right. Shout out to the best.
That's right.
But yeah, it's you
So,
really have
all
to have
right,
that.
all right, you've been in this business for a little bit, and knowing what you know, and all you know, you had to pay learning tax, right? You had to pay your dues. If somebody's thinking about doing this, would you tell them, yeah, this is the way to go? Is this the future? Is this the future? Is long term kind of like, do we hit our peak long term, and this is kind of the future, or
You know, I don't know. I don't know if this is the future. I can tell you that we legit, no joke, there are people who live in Airbnbs and they do not rent a long-term place. They do not own a home. And we have them that cycle through our units every now and then, and they will stay somewhere for 3 months and move on to the next property.
dude, I have a neighbor selling his house, and for the next 2 years, he plans to live in Airbnbs.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. It's a real thing. I have no clue how people could afford to do this. Because
Oh,
let me tell
yeah.
you, 15, I'm saying low numbers here because it's like Cartersville, Georgia, right? Cartersville, Georgia, 1,500 a month might get you, a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. Dude, that's 5 or 6 thousand a month as a short term.
Even
And
for midterm, even if they do 30 days or 60
oh
days,
God,
does that
yeah,
price come
yeah,
down or no?
absolutely. Well, think about it, dude. You got to furnish it. You got to provide the internet, all the utilities. You got to cut the grass.
Can't come down that much.
Clean the gutters, provide the linens, everything. I
Gotta do
mean,
that
there's a
laundry.
lot to it.
Yeah.
So, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of work. Remember, you're still on 365, right?
Yep.
So you can't afford to come down to like double the rent. I mean, that would be insane. Now I see people doing it, but those are the people that are going out of business. So
Got it. So, all right. So, are you coaching or consulting on this stuff yet? I know people have been asking you, and I know you've been very reluctant
I,
to building your own thing. So,
I've never been a guy who was like, "Hey, buy my course." I mean, I could probably teach one, but I just tell people if they need help, I'll help them.
all right.
And so
We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we're gonna come back to the lightning round. We're gonna put you on the hot seat in the lightning round. And we'll be right back after this message, everybody. All right, welcome back. Robert Gilstrap from Cartersville, Georgia. Is that where you're from originally?
I am actually, yeah.
Yeah, from
I was
Cartersville,
born in
Georgia.
Atlanta, but.
All right. All right, you're on the hot seat. All right. When you owned a PM firm, what property management software did you use?
Propertyware.
Propertyware. Oh, yeah, that's right. We were propertyware guys. Um, what was your organizational structure before you sold the business? Was it pod, or was it departmental?
We were a hybrid, but it was more it leaned more to departmental is the way that, and that's the way that I think it scales the bigger you get.
Did you use virtual assistants back then?
My entire company, that's what my one claim to fame is, right? I ran, in fact, I thank that you for it, because
Yeah,
you're the one that,
I told you that I sat you down at a real page conference. That's why I
dude,
remember
you
you
were
telling
the
me about it.
OG and people don't really even give you and Steve Rosenberg credit for that, man. You guys were the OGs. For nobody was doing VAs back then. Nobody. And
I'll,
well, I tell
I'll
you,
give out to
Todd
Gwen.
Breen. Todd Breen was, yeah, Todd Breen.
Todd was doing it a different way, and
Yeah,
Gwen was doing it as well.
yeah,
But we took it to the next level as far
yeah,
as like not task based, but like full job role based.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that, shout. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you were the OG, and you're the one who got me started. And I then took that to the level of, and I don't know that I think I do it a little bit different than others. My entire company ran off of VAs, everything, all leasing, maintenance, renewals. All my property managers, even though they're not property managers legally, but
Right, but
my whole
they were
company,
managing the property. Yeah.
hey, yeah, my whole company ran virtually, and it ran very profitably, and I love it, and I'll never go back. And by the way, now my new company runs that same way.
I'm still waiting for my residual check on all the savings I got you. All right. What is one piece of advice you would give someone just starting out in the PM business?
Uh,
Let's change this to say starting out in the short term PM business.
I think the answer is the same: is spend a little bit of time up front to get some systems put into place, or else you're going to work yourself to death. And man, if I had have just done that up front, because once you get going, man, you're so busy. It's like you never have time to stop and sharpen the saw, but you've got to.
Do you know of any organizations like NARPM for short term? And I know NARPM's kind of pivoting that way and adding more.
Quasi, there's the Vacation Rental Managers Association, which is VRMA, but I can just tell you they are nothing like NARPM as far as the camaraderie. Uh, they're just not the
Your
same.
back and just the helping each other.
Yeah, and they're very vacation centric, right? Beach,
Right.
condos and mountain stuff. The stuff I do, they really don't really have a whole lot to offer me. So,
Oh,
but I
maybe.
still love them, and I'm on a couple of boards with them. So,
Okay. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
does what?
Pineapple belong on pizza.
Oh God, no, no, I don't like pineapple on pizza.
All right. I know you don't eat fast food very often, but when you do, what's your go-to?
Dude, Chick-fil-A. Wow, that's like the only fast food I would eat.
What
Jesus
would
chicken, man. Jesus chicken is the best chicken on earth.
is it?
Yeah, they
Jesus.
got great. They got great service.
They
So,
do. My pleasure. What was your first job?
my very first job, I was a paper boy, but I've
Oh
worked at
yeah.
McDonald's. Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, I
Did
ran
you
a
have to do
paper boy empire. I ran like 6 routes, and
it?
I made a
Did you do
stupid
it in
amount
the
of money.
mornings or in the afternoons?
Well, in the afternoons, yeah, that was the only
Afternoon.
way I could do it. But
Right. Yeah, that was my first job too, man. The New York Daily News in the Bronx. And I was not a business owner yet, but I was a systems guy. I had all the ways that people could pay me. Like they would leave their envelopes out in the morning at their
yeah,
in their
yeah,
neighborhood.
that's how we did it. The
Yeah.
envelopes, and I had to do collections. I had to be like hard,
Oh yeah, man.
yeah,
Oh
because you got
man.
people that won't even pay for a damn newspaper. It was ridiculous from a kid, but for God's sakes, a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
they won't even
Oh
pay.
man. I got yelled at. I'm 12 years old. I'm asking this lady for 3 weeks. She just had the weekend paper, so you knew she was cheap. And
Yeah.
she's yelling at me from the top of her steps. I don't owe you 3 weeks. You're snow jobbing me. I had to go to my dad. I said, Dad, what's a snow job? He's like, you
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
we had people that wouldn't pay because it went in the yard and it got wet, or they wouldn't pay because it
yeah.
didn't land right on the front stoop. And
Yeah, and they don't realize that comes out of your salary. Like you pay
yeah,
for
yeah,
like you
you have to pay for those papers.
pay
Yeah,
for those papers. Yeah, absolutely.
I
We can
did
talk
good,
about
and it taught me a lot of lessons. It was
that.
very,
All
very
right,
valuable.
man. What is one thing that most people don't know about you, or something that most people don't know about you?
I don't know. I'm a federal firearms dealer. That's kind of
You
odd.
know, yeah, I didn't know that. All right. Um, what is one book that you that's impacted your life or business and that you would recommend?
My favorite book is, and it's on real estate. I'm a huge real estate investor, and I love real estate. And A.D. Kessler wrote a book called "A Fortune at Your Feet" decades ago. You probably don't even nobody's probably even heard of it, but it was incredible for me, and I love that book. So,
Nice. That's a nice find. You're a dog or cat guy?
well, I have two step cats that live at my ex-wife's house, but and I travel too much to have dogs, but I like them both.
All right. Fair enough. All right, Robert, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way they can connect with you?
Robert at sweetstaysatlanta.com, or call my mobile 770-480-7301.
You know, we get tens of downloads, man. That mobile is going to ring at least once now.
My phone rings a lot anyway. So.
If you're listening to this and you're not part of NARPM, it really truly is one of the best organizations out there as far as giving and just the amount of knowledge that's walking around those rooms. Go to NARPM, NARPM.org, or give them a call at 800-782-3452. And if you want to be cool like Robert and have a bunch of virtual assistants, vpmsolutions.com. It's free for you to use. The way we make money is you find them on our platform, you hire them through our platform, they put in time, you pay them through our platform, and we get 10% of what the VA makes. Robert, thanks so much for being here. Everybody, we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete.